Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 569th Imagine Greater Buffalo program and our 190th YouTube program hosted by our wonderful downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN, as I like to pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation as time allows. We are recording this program, so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And please, we hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speaker today. Joining us is William Butler, president of Black Rock Historical Society. The Black Rock Historical Society was established in 2011 to preserve the heritage and history of the neighborhoods and people associated with the Black Rock enclave in the city of Buffalo. Most easily identified as the current neighborhoods of Black Rock and Grant Amherst, the heritage and culture of these communities date back to when they were the village of Black Rock, before they were incorporated into the growing city of Buffalo. Their museum, I might note, is right on Amherst Street, at the corner of Amherst and Peter Street, right across from Assumption Parish. So with that, let's welcome William Butler. William, take it away.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the introduction, Dennis. My name is William Butler. I'm the board president of the Black Rock Historical Society. I joined the Black Rock Historical Society in 2014 as a volunteer while I was working with the Buffalo District of the Army Corps of Engineers right here in Black Rock. I would like to thank Imagine Greater Buffalo and the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library for inviting me to speak with you today and share a little bit of about our organization and our mission. Okay, next slide. There we go. And the next slide, please. Yes, we are a 100% volunteer organization dedicated to preserving and sharing the history of the communities of Northwest Buffalo. These four communities include Black Rock, Grant Amherst, Riverside, and West Hurdle. Essentially, it's bounded within the boundaries of the 14207 zip code, which has a population of about 25,600 people. Okay, next slide, please. Black Rock Historical Society received our absolute charter as an education corporation from the state of New York and was designated as a 501c3 tax-exempt corporation in 2019. Next slide, please. Here's our current board of directors who oversee and manage our operations and programming. We do have a few vacancies for a few good, motivated, dedicated folks who would like to become more involved in their community. Next slide, please. Oh, that's good. We are very thankful for our faithful members who support us with their annual dues. The current membership stands at 139 people. In addition to this membership dues, individual donations, and our annual fundraising, we have received grants from several organizations throughout the years. Erie County and the City of Buffalo also provide us with annual funding for our operations and educational program. So thank you, all you taxpayers. Next slide, please. This is our original home on Niagara Street near Hamilton Street in Black Rock. In 2011, we were first established as a committee of the Black Rock Riverside Alliance through the Good Neighborhood Planning Alliance program. In 2013, the Education Department of the State of New York granted our provisional charter as an education corporation. As I mentioned, in 2019, we were granted our absolute charter. Next slide, please. In 2020, we moved to our new home at 436 Amherst Street, a building that was granted landmark status by the city of Buffalo. It was the former Spolka Men's Clothing Store. In May of 2023, our building owners, Mark and Judy Kubiniak, received a preservation award for their work on this building from Preservation Buffalo Niagara. Our museum includes both permanent and rotating exhibits, along with a research library. We have our weekly visitation hours and also offer group tours on request. Here's just a few of our wide-ranging exhibits. So next slide, please. And next slide, please. Okay. Our grand opening was delayed almost a year, unfortunately, due to COVID. But it was a great event, and we welcomed Erie County Executive Mark Polenkars to open our museum. Okay, now I'd like to share a bit about the early history of our community. Next slide, please. The first known people in the area were the Erie, Kakwa, or neutrals, and Seneca, who witnessed the arrival of the early French explorers, traders, and missionaries. This is an early map of Black Rock drawn by Peter Augustus Porter in 1813 that actually shows the Black Rock, the far left side of the map. Black Rock was surveyed by the Holland Land Company and Joseph Ellicott in 1801, and the plan for the village was approved by the state legislature on April 11th, 1804. A feature of the local bedrock, the Onondaga limestone, the Black Rock was formed over 380 million years ago. The gray-black chert inclusions of the rock were ideal material for making tools for the first people living along the river. The rock's 100-foot wide ledge originally protruded about 200 feet into the Niagara River and stood about 5 feet above the waterline, where it created a natural jetty and a protected harbor for ferries, small boats, and shore fishing. The ledge was eventually blasted away and excavated to make way for the Erie Canal in 1823. Next slide, please. And this is just etching from 1911 that can show you what the Black Rock may have looked like in 1811. Created that little natural harbor there. Next slide, please. People always ask, where's the Black Rock today? You can actually see the Onondaga limestone, which formed the original Black Rock along the Niagara River and the Interstate 190 just downstream from the Peace Bridge. Next slide, please. In 1813, war came to Black Rock. British troops seeking revenge for the burning of what now is Niagara on the Lake attacked Fort Niagara and set fire to Youngstown, New York. 10 days later, in the late night of December 29 and early morning of December 30, 1813, the British crossed the Niagara River and set fire to Black Rock and Buffalo, then returned on January 1st to finish the destruction. Only one building in Black Rock survived the destruction, while its residents fled to nearby communities and did not return until the spring. Next slide, please. Today, the burning of Black Rock is commemorated by this historic marker at Market Square, located at Niagara Street and Amherst Street. Next slide, please. Another important role of Black Rock during the War of 1812 was Perry's Navy Yard at the mouth of Scajaquada Creek. 5 of Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry's ships were fitted out there, with 3 of the ships joining in the decisive battle of Lake Erie in September 1813. Next slide, please. The final historic battle in Black Rock was the Battle of Scajaquada Creek Bridge. On August 3rd, 1814, British Lieutenant General Drummond was eager to destroy U.S. military supplies in Black Rock and Buffalo and then recapture Fort Erie from the Americans. Despite being vastly outnumbered 5-1, Major Ludovic Morgan and the Regiment of Riflemen decimated the advancing British column at the bridge that had previously been disassembled. This battle represented the most successful and courageous fight which an American force ever waged on the Niagara frontier, and the last invasion by the British in the region. Next slide, please. Coming of the Erie Canal was a defining event in the history and development of the village of Black Rock. This photo shows the part of the towpath between Austin Street and Hurdle Avenue on the canal. Despite losing its competition with the village of Black Rock to be the western terminus of the canal, the Black Rock economy boomed. For a time, population actually grew at a faster rate than Buffalo, thanks to readily accessible and inexpensive transportation and water power. Black Rock's mills, foundries, and lumber yards rivaled those of its neighbors in Buffalo. Next slide. This is the original lock at the foot of Austin Street, which operated until it was replaced by the Black Rock lock in 1914. Next slide. Here's a view of the canal in Black Rock looking north from Hamilton Street. The building on the far right of the photo stands on Niagara Street. It's the former Unity Temple that still stands. It also shows, this photo also shows the original lock at the foot of Austin Street. Next slide. Here's a ferry dock at the foot of Amherst Street. The steeple in the background is St. John's United Church of Christ, and that church is still standing. Next slide. Let's bring us to Market Square. Market Square became a commercial core of the village where residents could purchase foodstuffs, home goods, tools, equipment, and their daily essentials. The village of Black Rock was eventually annexed by the city of Buffalo in 1853, but Black Rock continued to thrive. In 1883, the New York Central Railroad opened the Beltline Railroad in Buffalo. This railroad's circular route around the city made Black Rock even more accessible for workers and the transportation of raw materials and finished products. In particular, Polish workers from Buffalo's east side relocated to Buffalo, making Black Rock the second largest concentration of Poles in Buffalo. With the advent of railways and cheap hydroelectric power from Niagara Falls, industry no longer had to be located in the canal, on the canal, in order to transport freight, leading to a decline in industries in Black Rock. Next slide, please. The Jacob Smith House and Tavern is one of the contributing resources to the designated Market Square Historic District. This building was restored, preserved by Scott Glasgow, one of our founding trustees, and a 2024 Red Jacket Award winner. Speaking of historic districts, go back one slide, I believe. Lower Black Rock Historic District, yes. The Lower Black Rock Historic District is a collection of 12 buildings on Niagara Street that represent the last remaining canal era streetscape in Buffalo. Buildings range in age from 1830 through 1913. We have received a grant from Preserve New York to obtain state and federal certification for the district. This designation will open opportunities for historic preservation tax credits for the property owners. Also, Scott Glasgow completed a thorough evaluation and documentation of the district, and it's worth noting that Black Rock has the highest percentage of pre-Civil War buildings in Buffalo. Black Rock Historical Society reaches beyond our museum and celebrates our history with numerous commemorative events. Next slide. In 2013, we remember the bicentennial of the burning of Black Rock and Newark, Niagara-on-the-Lake, on Unity Island. And please note that the buildings shown in the bonfire are not to scale. Next slide, please. Here are a few of our board members with some of our Canadian friends. Next slide. We educated visitors of the area's history about the War of 1812 with a lecture series, exhibits, live period musics, a bateau, reenactors, blacksmithing, horse and buggy rides, and lighted stars along Scoojacqueta Creek. Next slide. There's the bateau built by the Buffalo Maritime Center. Next slide, please. We also celebrated the 200th anniversary of the historic Battle of Scoojacqueta Creek Bridge. Next slide, please. We prepared an exhibit for the 100th anniversary of the construction and opening of the Black Rock Lock in 1914. This lock replaced the original canal lock on Austin Street. And yep, next slide. We had historic reenactors. We had rangers from Mount Morris Dam, Corps of Engineers Mount Morris Dam, give guided tours of the lock, and also had a pass by the Edward Cotter. We also presented an exhibit of construction photos at galleries on Amherst Street and Niagara Street, showing the construction of the Black Rock Lock. In 2016, we helped organize a weekend-long commemoration of the Fenian invasion of British North America. This was an event where Irish American Civil War veterans planned to invade Canada, capture Canada, and hold it hostage to gain freedom for Ireland. By all means, it was the invasion was a failure, but 1 year later, Canada was granted Confederation, and 50 years later in Ireland, we had the Easter Rising. We also organized a mock debate on the selection of the western terminus of the Erie Canal at the Buffalo History Museum. We had two congressmen portraying Samuel Wilkinson and Peter Porter, and Governor DeWitt Clinton, portrayed by Mark Schroeder, who at the time was city controller. And the debate was moderated by Doug Kohler, Erie County historian. These are photos of our event commemorating the anniversary of the Fenian invasion of Canada. We had welcome the Consul General of Ireland in New York, Barbara Jones. She was our Grand Marshal for our parade. Next slide. This is the first parade in Black Rock since World War I. Next slide, please. We had reenactors at the Fenian Invasion Monument at the foot of Hurdle Avenue at Towpath Park. Next slide. Again, Consul General Barbara Jones and Mark Schroeder at the Fenian Monument. Next slide. And the Lord Mayor of Dublin presented us with a special citation for commemorating the Fenian invasion of Canada. Next slide, please. We received a grant to present traditional music and storytelling on 4 consecutive Sundays at the Sportsman's Tavern in Black Rock. Next slide, please. In 2022, we hosted an Erie County Bicentennial concert at the Sportsman's Tavern. Next slide, please. We also have produced, these are self-guided brochure maps for heritage trails within Black Rock and Scudaquida Historic Trail. Okay, next slide. Sorry, my slide's a little bit out of order. We installed the Heritage Trail mural, which was funded by the Greenway Commission in 2011. Next slide. And these are some of the artists that participated in preparing that mural. Next slide. For Thursdays every May, we have our Makers and Masters speaker series. This year, our series will focus on paper, including topics such as paper making, heritage wallpaper, and printing and binding. Our speaker series are free and open to the public, so we welcome you to join us. Then in October, for 4 Thursday evenings, we have our fall speaker series, and we are currently working on a lineup that we hopefully will be able to focus on the Erie Canal. Next slide, please. We try to bring our history education to the public and community events such as much as possible. Next slide. We were very honored to participate with the Seneca Nation of Indians and the city of Buffalo in the renaming of Unity Island. Next slide. This is a overdue symbol of respect and unity. Next slide. Individuals involved in the renaming dedication. Throughout the year, our volunteers help staff our information table at various community events. Okay. Next slide. In 2022, we welcomed a bike ride celebrating the last leg. That's the section of the Erie Canal from Black Rock to Buffalo. This was a ride that was led by Go Bike Buffalo and Buffalo Bike Tours that went from Canal Side to Market Square. At Market Square, we presented a little talk on the history of Black Rock. Okay. Finally, I would like to welcome you to join us to a few of this year's special events. Okay. If you may or may not know, 2025 is bicentennial year for two events. One was the farewell tour of General Lafayette of America, and the other is the completion of the Erie Canal. So on May 14th, we will welcome author and historian Chris Carosa to our museum, who will share a little-known story of General Lafayette's tour through Western New York. This event is also being co-sponsored by the Alliance Française Buffalo. On June 7th, we will take a deeper dive into Lafayette's historic journey. We will be commemorating the 200th anniversary of General Lafayette's farewell tour of America. After being greeted by the citizens of Buffalo on June 5th, 1825, Peter Porter hosted Lafayette at his home on Niagara Street in the village of Black Rock. Peter Porter's home was formerly located between West Ferry Street and Breckenridge, approximately where Rich Products headquarters located today. We will be recreating this noteworthy event with presentations by historic reenactors, period music, and of course a breakfast. We are co-sponsoring this event with the Buffalo History Museum, the American Friends of Lafayette, who will be having their annual meeting in Buffalo that week, and the Alliance Française Buffalo. This will be a ticketed event, and those tickets will be available online soon. Okay. In celebration of the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal, we'll be returning Market Square to a canal-era heritage market. This will be a free event and will feature live music, vendors, traditional crafts demonstrations, hay rides, and walking tours of the Market Square and Lower Black Rock historic districts. If you can help support us, please come to our annual fundraiser in September or October 2025 at the Sportsman's Tavern. We will be celebrating the history of the Showboat restaurant, which was formerly located at the foot of Hurdle Avenue. The Showboat welcomed Vaudeville Dinner Theater, the Barroom Buzzards, Paul Ferrett's Steel Drum Band, and even John Valby. If you know, you know. So keep your eyes peeled for that information. Just want to thank you again for welcoming me here today. Please check our website for interesting articles, news, and events. Just a reminder that we welcome you as a member or volunteer, and we are always looking for donations or loans of photos, documents, maps, and objects that can help us tell our stories. Thank you again.
William, thank you. What a wonderful, absolute summary of an important area in the story of Buffalo. I'm going to put you a bit on the spot. Because of the 3 years that Erie County will be pointing to history, local history, national history, the canal this year, the 250th anniversary of America, in 2026. And then in 2027, you've got women's rights here in New York State. So there's really going to be an emphasis, and they developed a heritage committee that will help tell the story. So my question is, I'm going to be asking people that deal with the history side of this series, why does local history matter? And the person you might be asking would be students, their parents, seniors. I mean, it's the general population. We should ask ourselves and come up with answers. Why does local history matter?
Yeah, I believe local history matters because it builds the foundation of where we are today. It brought our great grandparents, our grandparents, our parents to Western New York, to our individual communities. It gave them it built them as people, and it builds us as people as they raised us.
Nice, nice. All right, Hazen or Joy, whoever's got some questions, any from the audience?
We just have one. It looks like the Black Rock group does a lot of interesting and good things. Do you feel, I know you had mentioned that if people have any photos or any artifacts to certainly give them to the organization. Do you feel like you've got the complete story, or there are things missing?
Oh, I would say definitely there are items missing. Working here at the museum, I think I learn more than I teach. Well, you get visitors that come in whose parents and grandparents were raised in Black Rock, who have questions for us initially, but then share their stories. So what I do is I try to absorb all that information as much as possible, and then I solicit them for providing us more information, definitely.
There's something from our friend Barbara Bono. Thank you. Impressive history and impressive partnerships. In addition to your website and social media presence, do you have an email listserv? So is there an email where people can send to you and join your mailings?
Sure, yeah. It's a bit primitive, but if you send me an email, I will definitely add you to our email list. We use a historic preservation database called Past Perfect, and that's how we manage our email distribution list. So,
William, yep.
Yeah.
What's that email?
Yeah, it is info at Black Rock Historical Society, all one word, .com.
Okay, we'll put that in the chat.
Thank you.
Any others? Joy, any other questions?
I don't have any other questions.
You personify again, William, the role, and I want to emphasize it. I suspect everybody involved in this are volunteers to have gotten it to this point. I don't know if there's any paid staff at all, but you can reinforce the value of people volunteering their time and good spirit and goodwill to telling stories, basically telling stories. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. Yes, we are 100% volunteer organization, but we try to bring as many resources into our organizations as possible that we can share with the community.
Well, you've also done something that I wish more and more groups would do. It's because you have a former storefront that you tell the Black Rock story in pictures and diagrams sequentially right in your window, so that people, you don't have to be open for people to really gain a sense of the community's history, literally by standing on the sidewalk and looking in, something I've done more than a few times, in amazement of how good a story you've presented in literally a series of window frames.
Right. That gives us 24/7 presence on in Black Rock. And I just want to thank the Paul and Helen Ellis Charitable Trust for funding those window films, those photographs, and we have a historic timeline too, right in our front window.
All right, and one last point, I have a copy of it. It's a hardcover book on Black Rock that was put out a few years ago. Are those books available to be bought at your place or not?
Unfortunately, the second edition is printing, I'm sorry, is completely sold out. That was actually prepared by the Grant Ambers Business Association. There are discussions about getting a third printing, but right now they are sold out at our museum. I'm not sure if the Buffalo History Museum has any left, but they were also provided books for sale.
Oh, that's that seems to answer my first question about History Matter. People are willing to buy these books, very thorough, wonderful pictures. And I hadn't appreciated the first one was apparently sold out as well if you're printing a second one.
That's correct. Yep.
Well, keep up the good work. William, you give, every neighborhood has a story to tell, and the steps you've taken are the ones that have to happen. You get recognition, you get some historic signage up, those markers. I had occasion just to be looking at that war on the bridge in 1814 and crossing over on Grant Street, right behind Buffalo State. They help the passerby really become aware of the ground that they're walking on. And that's the value. And you have several in the Black Rock area, I know, identifying different houses and locations. So, all right, William, thank you very much. In some ways, you're kicking off this 3-year cycle. I wanted to emphasize and do so with, I have a fondness for Black Rock, and I wanted to kick it off with their having been raised there as a youth, first 9 years of my life. So thank you very much for doing so. Let's see. Let's move on. And folks, thank you for joining us today and listening to William Butler, president of Black Rock Historical Society and Museum. Next week, what we're going to have is another Buffalo landmark of sorts, Buffalo Central Terminal. Monica Pellegrino Fay is the executive director, and she'll be bringing us up to date with what is going on at our wonderful Buffalo Central Terminal landmark. So join us on Zoom and make sure you tell other people that you know are interested in the Central Terminal to join us as well. I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.